Dag nabbit, that was an accident. Uh, Kind of like WEF's announcement in 2030 that you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Uh, what it really should say is, you will own nothing and be happily dead. um, so the Chinese are suffering, and it's going to get a lot worse in China. The Chinese think that it's now or never. There has been a long effort to fracture NATO. The Chinese are the ones that are behind all of this, okay? So Russia's economy is the size of the state of New York. The Russia Ukraine war is like New York fighting Michigan. And we've given Michigan $70 billion. It's kind of weird to me. But anyway, there is this group. So there's Xi Jinping, there's Vladimir Putin from China. They have been having secret meetings for the last 10 years. They have couriers that hand deliver certain messages, a dedicated flight that go back and forth. They've been doing that for 10 years. Also, Xi Jinping has some health problems, and Putin has anal cancer, has supposedly less than 12 months to live. He's told Xi that, oh, I've got, several years, it'll be fine. But he's had, I guess, a couple of failed surgeries, and the doctors are saying, no, he's got less than 12 months. So, in my mind, that actually makes Putin dangerous because he's trying to. So, each of these people that are involved, Putin is going after Ukraine because of losing 20 million people in World War II. Stalin wanted all of Europe as his buffer. He was never happy that he was limited at Germany. It was always a goal to have more territory. The Russians lost a lot. Ukraine is especially important because, in the eyes of Putin and in the mythos of the Russian people, um, Ukraine, the Caucasus Mountains, Kiev, that's the birthplace of the Rus people. And so they want that back within the Russian homeland. Plus, the country is a lot smaller since it broke apart. And they don't have the economy that they used to have, so they aren't the world player they used to be. All they've got is nukes, which are very, very good. Um, China needs to take out Taiwan. Taiwan is a symbol of the Kuomintang. And after World War II, there was a revolution. And it was Mao versus Chiang Kai shek. And make no mistake, Chiang Kai shek was brutal and a dictator and not a good person. But he wasn't a communist. So America supported him. And he eventually lost the war and had to retreat to the island of Taiwan. And it's been like that ever since 1949. So, in Xi's eyes, he is trying to revitalize the Communist Party, remind the people who the boss of the people are, that they get everything from the party and they should be thankful to the party. There's also a massive amount of looting going on. Without getting too boring and into the details, the Chinese have overprinted their currency by a substantial amount. And global trade has always existed based on the yuan being around seven, lower sixes, 7 yuan per dollar. The government basically regulates that. Um, it is going to fall to below 8 yuan per dollar before too long. China realizes that now is as good as it's going to get. They thought NATO was more fractured. Putin actually did expect to roll through Ukraine in 3 to 7 days. The reason he had so much more stuff there is they didn't think NATO was going to intercede because they didn't with Crimea. If they had done that and not said anything, I think that he would have gone into the Baltic states, Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. He isn't done yet. Um, you've got stuff going on actually in Israel. You'll have Syria and Jordan going against Israel. Um, Egypt, probably. Turkey, I have no idea where Turkey's going to end up. I have no idea where India is going to end up. Pakistan, Afghanistan, um, Myanmar, China, North Vietnam, Russia. Those are kind of like the axis of evil on the in the Far East. So you also have Iran. However, the religious leader of Iran, there's a lot of turmoil going on in Iran right now. The religious leader had a surgery that he has just not woken up from, Khomeini. He'll probably be announced as dead before too long. I don't think he's supposed to survive. That's going to throw a wrench in some things. The Chinese yuan devaluation is going to throw a wrench in some things. There's a financial war that has already started. It's in the Asian markets. It's been going on for a while. There's been a series of mysterious fires that have broken out in very random but strategically critical buildings. My guess is like it's a Stuxnet version 2 that has gone out. So there's definitely some cyber stuff that's been going on for a while. Um, let's see, what else is there to say? I expect after, so there's a lot of news articles coming out right now about these Chinese police stations that are opening up in all sorts of cities in the U.S. and uh, well, I think it's just in a few cities in the U.S., but it's in like 40 countries now, that the Chinese police have opened an office in a foreign country and they are operating outside the rules of that country so they can grab citizens and ship them back to China. There's a massive purge, there's a massive war going on between like three different factions. Xi Jinping is going to come out on top. But there's a bloodbath that's going on, and it's just going to get worse, especially after October the 16th. I think what will happen at that point is sometime soon, China's going to put a blockade around Taiwan. They're going to try to totally seal it off. They're going to do what we did to Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And it will force the United States eventually to, because it's international waters, it'll force us to engage them, and then they can say that we started it. And China and Russia cannot take us on. They can't head to head, really. So what they're going to do is they're going to hurt us really, 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 really bad somehow. I don't know what that'll be. Um, in theory, they could nuke Diego Garcia and Guam and Wake and the Aleutians, and I mean, they could take out all of our Asian theater, but then they would be dead. Um, Cyber, I could see them wiping out the entire internet. Uh, I think that's going to be the Great Reset also. The Great Reset is going to happen somehow. There's like three different things, I think, at this point that I've been kind of tracking, and they're all going down to the same thing. So it's all managed opposition at the end of the day. This is going to happen. Um, what my guess is somehow there's going to be an event. It'll be a solar storm. It'll be a EMP blast. There'll be a nuke that's set off high in the atmosphere, and it creates a pulse of energy that will destroy and fry electronics. Somehow something will happen, and There may even be attempts to be runs on the bank, and everything will fall apart at that point from a financial standpoint, which will lead to a cultural and societal collapse, which will not be good, because money will suddenly not be worth anything, and on top of that, everything that was electronic is gone. So your mortgage is gone, yes. Your car loan would be gone, yes. Student loans gone, yes. All of your savings, your 401k, your bank accounts, certificates of all of that stuff is gone. Um, and there's no way to reset the system once that happens. There's just physically no way to do it. You have to do something entirely different, and that's where this is headed. My guess is that the Federal Reserve is as an act of the as an act of the government, I think through the Treasury, they are an authorized dealer in the debt of the United States of America. So, all Congress would have to do would be rescind that law, and suddenly the Federal Reserve has nothing to barter or deal with, and suddenly all dollars are worthless. And then the U.S. Treasury puts out new currency, and all debts are wiped out, and it's a great reset. Or China's got a version of a great reset, which is a lot worse. Um, the Chinese are there is a race war going on, and people don't understand it. In July of 2020, the Chinese consulate in Houston was shut down in an emergency way. There was so much burning going on by the Chinese that the fire department was called, but the fire department was not allowed to enter the building. So they weren't able to go in until the Chinese actually exited the building. It was an intelligence operation that was running Antifa and Black Lives Matter protest organizers. So they fed on the anger of certain events that matched a certain narrative, and then they agitated to create a crisis. That's why we don't have. It's why we haven't had any more riots or any more protests, really, since George Floyd. And that they're the key ones that happen, but they're just individual things. And there's thousands murdered in Chicago every year. Thanks, Lori Lightfoot. Good job. There are thousands murdered in Democrat-run cities, in urban areas all around the world, right, all around the country. And the rich white people are telling the urban people that the police are the problem. Defund the police. And so all the criminals are getting out, and the urban feel less safe, so that the Democrats can then blame the Republicans for making them less safe. Somehow, it's all a giant circle jerk. It all goes back to the Chinese. This is a plan that has been long in coming. And they have corrupted, they have bought off. I'm pretty sure Jeffrey Epstein is involved in this. Jeffrey Epstein was the guy that would corrupt, blackmail people that maybe they couldn't buy off or something. I don't know. They bought off what they could. That was the BGY program. The 3F program they had, which was about creating chaos and division in American society so that we would be focused internally, not externally. They have bought off the media. They bought off big tech. I mean, when Google decided to change their logo from "Don't Be Evil," or they eliminated that. That was like a problem, and nobody said a word about that. But I mean, don't be evil is pretty broad already. So when you can't even go along with that, you got some big problems. Um, Barack Obama gave away the internet. ICANN, at the end of his administration. Basically, the keys to the entire internet were given to a global consortium. Um, yeah, so you have that. Obama had a massive purge of the military. Obama is clearly owned by somebody. I don't know who. But he's got a beef to pick with Americans, with white people, with something. I don't know. Capitalism. It has nothing to do with skin color. But they have successfully divided the American public because what they do is they keep agitating people on both ends. I'm going to let you in on a secret. I don't know a single member of a white nationalist organization or militia, and I have traveled all over the country. I'm a pretty social person. I've never met one. I mean, you hear about them on TV from time to time, but I've never met one. And yet the government keeps telling us that it's these domestic terrorists that do stuff that are, racist. There's some racism, yes. There's racism between African Americans and Asians. There's racism between them and the Latinos. I used to be in supplier diversity. I saw it. There's racism everywhere. It's called stereotyping. It's how humans process and categorize the information quickly that comes in so they can focus on details. And yes, there are some people that are assholes. And what are you going to do? I mean, there's always assholes. I had people be assholes to me most of my life. I'm fine, I think. Kind of. I made it. But we're going to have to learn to stop listening to the fringe and let the fringe be the fringe. Go let them be kooks. And we need to stop letting them divide us. Because that's what China is doing right now. And by the way, China doesn't like Russia either. I can't wait till the Russians figure this out. The Russians emptied their eastern theater so that they could go fight in Ukraine. And the Chinese are right next to the eastern theater. And when it's time for China to make a move, I firmly have believed that they would always go into eastern Russia. So, there's a lot of stuff going on. It's not as easy as good guys, bad guys. Heck, I don't even know what the United States is at some point. Ukraine's a mess. The motivations behind Ukraine, I knew that there were weapons facilities in Ukraine for a long time because I'm a resident of Indiana, and Dick Lugar created the Lugar Center in Ukraine for biological weapons after the dismantling of the Soviet Union. But that was 30 years ago, and there's no reason for it to still be open. There's 38 facilities that were open, or was it 38, 13? I don't know, but I have that in my Twitter and probably Facebook, how many facilities there actually were. The coincidence between the allegations of Biden corruption, which are all over the newspaper archives for the Ukrainian newspaper in Kiev, like the main mouthpiece. There's so many articles back in 2015, 16 about the corruption that was going on. All of this is related to the Hunter Biden thing. All of this is related to Clinton Foundation, Jeffrey Epstein. It's all literally starting to come together. The only thing I don't know, well, there's lots of things I don't know. The one thing that I have no theory on is who is actually behind all of it, because it almost seems to be above nations. It's which is a freaky thought to even think about. But I mean, I'm familiar with Ruby Ridge and Waco. I remember those very clearly. I remember Janet Reno very clearly. I remember the weaponization of the FBI that started very clearly. I've always been against the militarization of the police that started after the first Gulf War. There was no reason for all of these police departments to have all this SWAT and TAC gear for precisely this reason, because they're using it against the people. And it's the reason that I don't want to give up my weapons, because that is the only thing standing between me and being able to make this video right now. Think about that for a second. Just think about it. This is we're civilizational struggle here, folks, because what the left doesn't understand is, as imperfect as America might be, the minority has to live with the majority, and the majority does not agree with the minority right now. And what the minority also needs to understand is the United States is the only thing standing between gays getting their buttholes glued together in Arabic and African countries more widely than is already done, or not. Or women being able to drive in Saudi Arabia, or not get shot in Iran for not having a headdress on, or not be stoned to death because she got raped by somebody else and she was dishonored. I mean, come on. The United States has been, it shouldn't be the world police. We weren't designed to do that. We were not designed to be an empire. But now that we are an empire, there are responsibilities that have to be had, and they're trying to tear it all apart. It all comes back to the dollar. It comes down to destroying the dollar, because the dollar is the reserve currency of the world. Again, going back to Nixon, Nixon took us off the gold standard, and we never went back. It literally became a petro and fiat dollar. It's worth $1 because we say it's worth $1. As soon as we believe it's not worth $1, it'll just be paper. I don't know what's coming. All I know is it's not going to be good, and that life as we knew it before is over. I'm not even talking about whether, there's problems with vaccines, or whether there's going to be new viruses that come through in some type of a genetic warfare, which, by the way, Chinese generals were talking about in the news in 2015 about genetic weapons, designing DNA-specific things that could go after the lower races. These guys are fucking Nazis all over again, but they have the information systems, they have the money, and they have just enough technology loaned to them by us idiots that they may be able to pull off something that the Germans could only have dreamed of, that the Nazis could only have dreamed of. The Chinese Communist Party is a huge existential danger to the entire world. Russia is no longer an existential danger to the entire world, unless Putin doesn't get taken out. Iran, I think they're going to change soon. North Korea, their job is supposed to keep Japan worried and busy. That's why they're shooting off rockets. They would fold in a second. Their military is laughable. I've watched some videos of North Korean army defectors that came through and are interviewed in South Korea, and it's unbelievable. The Chinese have the same quality problems. They can't find their pilots, as I mentioned before, to fly carrier-based aircraft. They can't even build trainer aircraft like the T-45 that the U.S. has. So they're literally having, and they don't have two-seat aircraft very many. They've got like a really fat, heavy fighter that they're using. I mean, it is laughable. They took a brand new boat out on a sea trial not too within several years. They blamed the U.S. for blocking their GPS signals, as I remember, and so they canceled the commissioning cruise and went back. And the problem was is that the actual welds of the boat were leaking, and that the boat was going to sink if they didn't get it back to port immediately. That's the quality. They can't build their own jet engines. They're trying to get high technology. There's going to be a huge technology cutoff. I don't know how it's going to happen, but China's going to get severed from everything. TikTok is going to go away. Um, a lot of things are going to change. Um, I don't know that Google and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube are even going to be the same. I don't know what's going to happen. But there's going to be huge changes that are going to come. And I think there'll be changes that almost everybody will support, but there's going to be unintended consequences hiding in there somewhere. The other thing you should watch for, Roe versus Wade, while everybody was focused on abortion, I think the fact that that was where the right to privacy was most encoded, I think that is going to be used against us. I think that was the whole plan. Get everybody focused on abortion, and it's about eliminating the right to privacy. That way they can eliminate the banks and they issue you U.S. notes from the Treasury, not Federal Reserve notes, Treasury notes. Everything goes directly through the Treasury, and it'll be digital currency, so the government will know all of your major transactions. Most likely, there'll be some paper currency for local purchases and things that'll still be used, but the majority will probably be electronic. So, I don't know. That's kind of like an overview of the story. And it's based on different news articles, different things that I've read, things that I've experienced. And so now I want people to poke holes in it and tell me where I'm wrong so that we can come up with a better idea. Because we cannot trust what anyone tells us these days. There is no trust with any news organization. MSNBC and Newsmax are both fear porn tailored to demographics. They are two peas in the same pod. They're just different peas. Um, Fox News generally is BS. If you follow Twitter, if you follow some foreign news sources and such, I know news 2 days before it's ever on TV at a minimum, and those are for recent events. Then you have other types of things that I'm months ahead of. So I look for China to invade Taiwan uh, October, beginning in November. If they don't do it then, I'm going to guess it's April because those are the two times of year where the sea is cooperating. Um, and there's going to be a huge stock market collapse when all of the corruption in China is revealed. Um, that's probably where the dollar will blow apart and anything not in your physical possession will be gone. Um, and that's the Great Reset. That's the start of it. Everybody goes back to zero, just like Tyler Durden wanted. So, hope this was helpful. And again, I'm just putting the straw man out there to see what other people think. And then hopefully, together, other people that know more than me in certain areas will correct the story. And we'll get somewhere. Nothing else has been working. This is Mark Brown from Archaeology. Thanks for listening. If you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe and yada, yada, yada. Appreciate it. Bye.